Have you been fighting about the same thing over and over with your partner? You're not alone. Hi, I'm Stephanie Cook, and I'm the clinical director at Couples Counseling ATL here in Georgia, where we serve couples online or in person. And I want to talk about this very important but very common and frustrating issue between couples. It's something we call perpetual problems. We ask couples to come back every year and discuss their problem that they've been having, and we watch. And one big finding from these years of research, around 69% of problems that couples talk about, they never go away. So if you're struggling with something that just keeps coming up, you're not alone. They come back over and over, again and again, great relationships and struggling relationships, and they never get solved. So in the Gottman lab, the only things that really changed were the couple's fashion and their hairstyles. And so the Gottman Institute chose to call these just problems, perpetual problems. And they go on forever and ever, and so they're perpetual in nature. No matter who you choose to be with long term, you will have inevitably a set of these problems. So the other 31% of problems that couples have are pretty easy to solve and resolve if you have, okay conflict skills. And sometimes perpetual problems get what we call gridlocked for couples, and that means that whenever couples talk in a particular issue, they get into a big fight, it blows up so much that the tension between them when they talk about it is just always kind of under the surface. It's ready to explode when they talk about it. And so they might start avoiding that issue altogether. And a really good metaphor that the Gottman Institute came up with to think about it is like two clenched fists pushing against each other. There's my perspective and opinion, and it's just tense and there's no movement on these problems. So they discovered that when these couples' problems get gridlocked like that, each partner might have a set of beliefs, needs, maybe some childhood experiences or an ideal dream that's really woven into their position on the issue. But they're not talking about those underlying feelings or needs or experiences, and instead they're just trying to convince each other that the other person is wrong and I'm right, and this is why you should think like I do. And that what works much better, however, and what we try to teach using the Gottman method in couples therapy is that each of your beliefs, your feelings, your dreams on that issue are valid, and each partner needs to understand. So you have to be the listener. Each person needs to take turns being the listener so that you can understand the person speaking, your partner. You have to understand why their position is the way that it is on this issue, why it's important to them, not trying to be right, just trying to listen first. If you're going to work on this, you've got to choose one perpetual gridlock problem to work on. Don't try to work on a bunch at one time. Let me teach you how to do it using our guide. You're going to look over a list of issues, and you'll kind of just put a little check mark by each one that maybe you do want to work on, but you're going to both choose one. Maybe you want to spend no more than like 20 minutes talking about it. Because sometimes if you spend too much longer, tensions can rise and old issues can come up. So 20 minutes, maybe like 10 minutes each, just fleshing out your beliefs and your history on this issue. Once you've written out a little bit about your beliefs, your feelings on that particular topic, you're going to share it with your partner, whatever you selected. Let's say you both want to work on different things, maybe you take turns, right? Choose which one you're just going to work on today. And make sure you and your partner agree on which problem that you're going to work on, because you'll be returning to it for, just today, and then you can put the other ones aside for later. And the primary goal in working on one of these gridlocked perpetual issues one at a time is to also learn some new conflict skills, and to make conflict management easier for both of you, something you don't dread. Maybe you'll never look forward to it, but maybe you don't have as much tension. And so if you look at the gridlocked problems list, it's things like differences in neatness and organization. Maybe one person cares more about being neat and organized than the other person. I'm delightfully messy. If I'm not in a good mood, maybe I might call my partner who is neater, more of an OCD or neat freak. Not kind, critical, don't do that. It's easy to just, it's much healthier to just think of this as differences, right? And to not start pathologizing those differences. So other differences might be like wanting time together. Maybe one of you likes spending a lot more time together than the other person versus time apart, time alone. Definitely, depending on whether or not you're more of an extrovert or introvert, you can probably tell which one I am. And one person may really get more energy from being around people or being with their partner than the other person. Maybe one person likes more home time with the children, with their partner. Another difference is that one of you, would like to work longer and make more money or have a certain lifestyle, and another partner doesn't, want as much money or a certain lifestyle, or doesn't want to work as much. And then differences may exist with respect to religion or spirituality. One person may value, religious observances or certain religious principles more than the other person. You may also have differences in your lifestyle with respect to drugs and alcohol. That's a really common one, is one person really likes to have a glass of wine every night. One person really abstains from almost all mood-altering substances. And maybe one person have a difference in independence and like how much independence they want. One person may feel they need to be able to make more choices by themselves without consulting their partner. And the other person may really want their partner to consult with them first. There may also be, a few other examples, like difference in excitement level and differences in the way that you express yourself. One person may be really wanting a lot of emotion when they talk with their partner, and the other person may prefer a more, kind of reserved or, less expressive sort of conversation. And they may need more calmness and peace and tranquility, and the other person may really want more excitement or passion or joie de vivre or spontaneity. And those are also really common differences in pairings. So it's important for you to know that any of these things are really common differences between partners, and it's not easy, but it's very, very possible for you to learn how to navigate those differences. So let's start with the how-to. So once you've identified and you've sort of listed off some feelings, some beliefs, some history or some background on that, then one of you becomes the listener, right? And one of you becomes the speaker. And so with one person being the listener, one person being the speaker, what are you gonna need to do? One person spends, again, 10 minutes talking, and the listener can also ask questions, but make no comments, no judgments. Don't go down a story rabbit hole. Just ask questions on our guided list, like, what are your feelings about this? What are your beliefs about this? Do you have any history here? Maybe there's a childhood memory that really helps your partner to understand, your feelings or beliefs about this. What's ideal in your dreams? Like, if I could have life in our relationship, in the world, the exact way I wanted it related to this, what would it look like? So maybe if, one of the key differences being, maybe neatness or something, let's say I'm a less neat person, which is me, my ideal might be that I would hire somebody to do some of the cleaning, and I might be able to kind of leave the dishes in the sink for a while and get to them later at night, for example. That might be ideal for me, and it may seem just kind of like my personality, but maybe in sharing about myself and my history, I might share with you that when I was little, I had a parent who was really demanding that everything be neat, everything be done immediately. I didn't have a lot of time maybe to relax when I was little, so as soon as I get home, it was, tidy up, clean your room, clean the dishes, do these chores. And so if you had a history like that, it might be really easy for your partner to understand why immediately cleaning things, you might have an aversion to that because it's maybe part of your childhood that you really didn't experience well. Another classic example might be for the opposite. If somebody really likes things to be neat and tidy, you could easily just see that at face value, two-dimensionally, as some sort of personality or some sort of problem if you're the less neat or tidy person. But getting to know them, asking them these questions, fleshing out what their dreams are about being neat and tidy, that they would be able to relax when they get home if everything's neat and tidy. Maybe you hear about their history, that part of their history as a child was that there was a lot of chaos, and maybe they didn't have a lot of things that were neat and tidy, and there was a lot of clutter, and maybe one of their parents had mental health issues or addiction issues, and so now as an adult they get to choose how their space is, and so maybe it's particularly triggering for them when there's a lot of clutter or a lot of mess, or they're not able to relax and not able to really enjoy being with you when things aren't as neat. And so what I've seen with couples, and what most Gottman couples therapists have seen when we do this exercise around gridlocked perpetual issues, is that when you start to kind of understand what is really behind each person's belief or preference or perspective on these issues, those clenched fists kind of open up. Both people become more vulnerable. They share a little bit more, sometimes stories they've never heard about their partner, or maybe they've heard it, but now it's in a different perspective, and they start to see dreams and things that are just really critical for this person, the kind of life that they want. And there's not a right or a wrong, but it's just how they're built and based on their experiences and based on their biology. And there's not going to be a way to change your partner on these issues, but you start with understanding, and then usually once you both have opened up a little bit and you've understood, maybe both of you have a little bit more empathy and understanding about why this issue is so important to them and why they have such strong reactions on this issue. There's less blaming, there's less contempt, criticism, judgment. Most of us are also become a little bit more flexible and adaptable around, like, oh wow, now I understand why a neat home is important to you because of your childhood. And so maybe even though it's not my preference to immediately clean as soon as I get home, maybe I start doing that more often, maybe not every day, but more often, because I love you and I know that this helps you. And likewise, even though I don't really like a mess, for example, I now understand why, your parent being a drill sergeant and always wanting you to have everything clean and you not having any time just to kind of relax before getting to the job or getting the job done, maybe that will help me to understand how it's important for you to just have more freedom, and that you have a higher tolerance for maybe a messy sink or dishes, and that it doesn't bother you, and you just need a little time before you do things like chores. So I hope that you can understand that perpetual problems are really not something that can be solved. Unlike those, like the 30% of solvable issues, it's really just about whoever you pair up with. They're a different person than you. They've got different history, different preferences, different beliefs, different dreams. And so no matter what, you're not going to agree on these issues. But the way that the master couples handle this is that they have more conversations, they understand each other better, they sit down, especially if something keeps coming up and it keeps bringing up emotion for one or both of them, they have more of a conversation where one is a listener, one is a speaker. They really get to understand, like, what's going on, honey. So if you find yourself in this situation with your partner, which again, you will, the best way to move forward is not to just keep butting heads and try to decide who's right or wrong on an issue. It's to bury the hatchet, remember that there's not a right or a wrong on most issues, but that both of you probably have a really valid perspective, both of your feelings are right, both of your histories are right, and there's so many different ways to live, and there's so many different ways to exist. And if you're going to love this person, you're going to respect their views, you're going to respect their preferences, and you're probably going to find a way to move forward so that you can come up with a compromise that works for both of you, that doesn't squish either one of your dreams. So if you find this helpful, please subscribe to our channel. And also, if you need more guidance or you need some help with this, please reach out to us at counselingatl.com. You can book a free consultation or session with a couples therapist, and online or in person, and we'd be more than happy to help you. Thanks.